it's new, but it's ancient. You know, like it's been there. It's exposed now. It's like the wound is exposed now, you know, and then at that point, it's painful when the wound is exposed. When we just even apply hydrogen peroxide to like a cut, it burns.
I love that reference. I love that reference because you're creating this to be real for people. Reminding people that we all bleed.
Yeah, we do. And it's painful. And we have to heal through that on a basic human, like, being level. Like, if it was just very human to all of us that we have like cuts and scrapes and bruises, and it hurts and it's painful, but then eventually, like, the wound, it heals up. Grateful for the opportunity to just like work through trauma.
Generational trauma at that. It's not just trauma that we alone have experienced in our own lifetime. Our ancestors were fighting the same fight. They fought the same fight. So, like you said, it's new, but it's ancient. It's written in the history books. As much as they want to delete certain parts of history and throw it in the trash, it's still written in the ancient texts. All these different ancient texts that we have access to. If we choose to read, take some time to invest in reading up on our history, reading up on certain patterns that have existed in history. When we do these things, we start to see solutions arise. Eventually. Eventually. So it's up to us to have that patience. 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 Because I know these days have felt long for people, especially the ones on the front line protesting, you know, putting their lives on the line, their family. People are at risk. It's been a long couple of weeks, and then plus we've been in quarantine and all of these things that, you know, has taken a toll on the mental health of our community.
Yes. And within that, like, we form patterns, you know, as you've mentioned, the generational part of it. You know, it's in the way that we communicate. It's in the way that we exchange goods and services. It's in the way that we create hierarchy systems and survive off of the backs of a lot of labor that isn't properly compensated, and also there's no empathy there. It's just like, I'm just gonna have you do this and build this, and that's what you have to do historically for centuries and decades. So now I guess like people are starting to like to feel, you know, like eventually we feel.
My grandmother super Caribbean, super Jamaican, would always say, who don't hear must feel.
Yo, I've heard that from my grandmother as well. Wow.
It's the same story. Who don't hear must feel.
Yeah.
If you didn't hear, if you didn't allow yourself to heed the message, you will feel the consequences.
Mm-hmm. Eventually, it starts to, everything has to come to light.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I feel like I've been thinking very heavily on this idea of full circle experiences. We are entering, or we have entered, a stage now in history where things are coming full circle. So a lot of the things that happened centuries ago are now coming full circle. We're being faced with our own reflections. We're being faced with our truth. And we have to ask ourselves these questions. Have we grown, or are we still living in fear? Are we evolving? Are we rising in love? Or are we living in fear, existing in a fear-based society? What are we choosing?
That part.